As I drove from Enugu to Owerri this morning, taking in the wondrous landscape and the lush vegetation, I was struck by how common our communities are alike. I was trying to figure out the distinguishing feature going from one state to another, but I could barely find anything distinguishing one state from another, except the customary signposts at the various boundaries. So, the ties that bind us together run truly deep. So, we have this commonality of everything. We may have various dialects, but we have one language, Igbo. And this Igbo nation is today faced with existential challenges, existential threats. We are faced with the worst security bout ever experienced in the Southeast. We're also faced with the worst economic slump ever witnessed since after the end of the Civil War. And I'm very glad that we're here today to discuss about these two critical issues: security and economy of the Southeast states. For me, the goal of securing the Southeast does not really depend on one state being able to arrest and dislodge criminals as a single unit. We must begin to think about strategies that enable us to ring-fence the zone and to be able to deploy a common strategy and common operations plan to be able to deal with these security challenges. And in doing so, we also have to begin to think about how do we, the people of the Southeast, the governors of the Southeast, how do we meet regularly with the security agencies? How do we ensure that the inter-security agencies are able to share intelligence and that there is no undue restriction? Because sharing of such intelligence is what you require to fight a cross-boundary criminality. And so, we will also, in the same vein, be thinking about how do we set up a command and control center that is common to the entire Southeast states. I recall in our first meetings, meeting, the Southeast Governors Forum, some of these ideas were mooted. And I'm hoping that as part of the ideas that will be explored in this location would be to figure out how we can implement and execute these ideas. We are also looking at ways beyond just the kinetic approach to addressing security. We're looking at the moral situation, the non-kinetic approaches to dealing with insecurity. We know that some of our youths are being misled into believing that they are fighting a noble cause. And so this is where our traditional rulers, our president generals of the various town union have a critical role to play. How do we let our youth see the folly in their action, their misguided actions, knowing that this could only be a shot in the foot. As a way of extending the non-kinetic approach, is also for us as leaders of this zone to be able to think about how do we deal with the root causes of insecurity. In my opinion, how do we address unemployment and poverty? That naturally leads me to the next theme of this summit, economy. I believe that in order for us as a region to grow, we must take a bold view of the things we can achieve as a region. So and that will include looking at how do we have an integrated region, into how do we integrate this region, a very compact region, from that, how do we integrate it into a common market? And what are the synergies that we require to build in order to achieve that? What are the key enablers to have a common market? Now, the importance of having a common market is A, you're going to be able to attract large investments. Okay, if we're looking at the market size of 25 million people and above, so you're talking about 25 million consumers, and you're looking at the economies of scale that you can achieve by that sheer size of people. We're also going to be able to look at how do we create a large scope of specialization by way of the things we have comparative advantage of in the Southeast. So there are ways we can begin to think about expanding or growing our economy, but talking about them would require, as I said, key enablers. And in my view, those key enablers would be in form of transportation and logistics. How do we ensure that we have a real network that moves across the various cities in Anambra, Abia, Imo, Enugu, and Ebonyi? How do we build a ring road that connects all the major cities in the Southeast? How do we build so that we can seamlessly encourage those who are producing and those who are providing services to be able to distribute their products and services across the different cities of Southeast seamlessly? So there are things that we must be intentional about if we're going to deal with unemployment and insecurity in the Southeast. So, without wasting so much time, I'm going to be suggesting a few things. First of all, let us look at how to curate this idea of since today we now have rail as, based on the new amendment of the law, we have rail in the concurrent list. So there is nothing stopping us. So if we pick one or two projects from this summit that we can say, look, we're going to, as the people of Southeast, make sure that we implement, we execute, and we know that it's going to have a huge spillover effect. Of course, the challenge will be, if we believe in it, what will be the various sources of fund? How do we fund it? That again brings me to this philosophy of Akuruno. We can be thinking about different models of funding. We have the crowdfunding model. So Akuruno, in my view, is for us to also encourage our kids and team to be able to bring back their wealth to the Southeast. And it's putting a benchmark of, say, between 30 and 40% of our wealth. We're people that are wealthy Hebrews. So if we begin to think about how do we invest some of those funds in the Southeast, it's also the way of making sure that we implement to have huge capital flow into the Southeast to be able to execute some of these critical projects. So my hope is that this summit is going to employ the best of our brains to create these ideas, prepare them in a way that is implementable. I can assure you that for us, I'm sure I'm speaking for my brothers as well, that we're going to stand by you to implement these great ideas that you will create from this summit. So once again, I want to thank the organizers of this summit, and I wish you a fruitful dedication. Thank you.